While we don't think of them in the same way as cars or even commercial airplanes, trains are a staple mode of transportation and may be the very definition of the standard routine at times being guided by rails. Yet, rail and train construction is often anything but standard or routine and is sometimes hatched from the brains of ultra-creative and at times desperate engineers. We've already told you about some of the bizarre locomotives themselves in a previous video, so in this video we're going to get into some of the crazier railroads from around the world. Number 10. Hindenburg Dam in Germany. Rail and sea travel might seem to be worlds apart, but when trains appear to run across the waves on a narrow causeway, the role of a ferry may be replaced by the capabilities of a train. The island of Sylt off the coast of Germany is not accessible by either roads or ferries. Instead, the method of traveling, and most significantly of bringing cars to and from the popular island destination, consists of what might best be called a sea train. Locomotives stacked with personal vehicles travel between Sylt and the mainland, just barely above the waves on rails laid upon a precarious-looking causeway called the Hindenburg Dam that crosses almost 7 miles of water. The causeway is solid but exceptionally narrow and has also very little height above sea level. The shallow waters in between the mainland and the island of Sylt made the creation of this remarkable alternative to the more typical means of transporting vehicles to an island by boat possible. Around 100 trains per day travel between the island and the mainland, half of those carrying cars and trucks. Number 9. Rail transit number 2 in China. Chongqing in China's Sichuan province is a populated area where spicy food is popular and urban residential, commercial and transportation space is at a great premium. So much so, in fact, that when the planned construction of rail transit number 2 line in Chongqing was set to go forward, an apartment building was right in the way of the track that was slated to be built. While such a defined problem might baffle some designers and planners, a remarkable planning compromise was reached that balanced the competing transportation and residential needs. Lacking an alternative route for the railway and not wanting to take the drastic step of demolishing the building, transit planners and engineers concocted a successful plan that removed several suites and passed the elevated train track right through the apartment building. While not easy, taking the approach of routing the railway through the building was still more feasible than trying other paths, given the limited available space. The apartment still houses most of its original inhabitants, who apparently don't mind a monorail barreling through their place every once in a while. Care to maintain the structural integrity of the building through the tunnel-like modifications combines with the quiet and efficient railway system to make the building livable and surprisingly without significant noise or disturbance to the residents. Number 8. Gisborne Airport Railway Crossing. Planes, trains, and planes and trains together? Yep, New Zealand is not the largest nation on Earth, and the competition for flat land that can be used for purposes dependent on flat land, especially for example an airport, is significant in certain areas. In a dramatic example of space sharing in transportation infrastructure, a railway intersects with a runway. On New Zealand's North Island, the Palmerston North Gisborne railway line crosses the runway of the Gisborne Airport. Any mistake by a pilot or an engineer could potentially cause a plane to crash right into a train that's crossing the middle of the runway at right angles. But do not worry, schedules are carefully coordinated. Still, a locomotive steaming across a runway may shock the eyes of the unprepared. The railway is busy throughout the day and into the night according to scheduled train routes. In contrast, the runway is only in operation to handle air traffic between 6:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. During the day, when both are in full use, it is a job in and of itself to coordinate the arrival and departure of aircraft with the seemingly out-of-place trains that cross the runway. Aircraft and trains both stop for each other. Number 7. Gotthard Tunnel Route. Northern and southern Europe may be geographically different and set apart by massive alpine peaks towering above sloping forests and fields, but the remarkable Gotthard Tunnel solves the problem by tunneling directly through the mountains, connecting Europe on either side of the imposing Swiss Alps by going right under especially difficult sections. The tunnel is the longest railway tunnel in the world, at 35 miles in length, greatly reducing the need for truck traffic. The tunnel is not only the longest railway tunnel existing on the planet, it is also also the deepest under the surface. At its greatest point of depth, the remarkable tunnel is 1.42 miles below the mountainous surface above as it carries trains in the subterranean desolation. Replacing the traffic of 1 million trucks that have been transporting goods every year, the twin-board tunnel links the municipality of Erzfeld with its German-language name and located towards Switzerland's north, with the south of Switzerland's municipality of Bodio closer to the Italian border and with a corresponding Italian name. Examples of Switzerland's linguistic diversity, by the way. The tunnel route was opened in a ceremony that involved hundreds of passengers getting the opportunity to ride the train in each direction. Number 6. Maeklong Railway Market. Playing on train tracks is not recommended, but the Maeklong Railway Market in Bangkok, Thailand takes things one step further. You see, not only do people gather around the tracks, but an entire marketplace is set up and dismantled daily. When the market is open, stalls are erected and goods are sold right on the tracks upon which trains will soon arrive. Each time trains are scheduled through the day, items and people are moved hastily off the track before the trains come through. Paying attention to the time is certainly a matter of survival in this particular setup. The scale and complexity of the market in its cumulative sum makes its dismantlement seem immensely challenging, but it is the coordinated effort of multiple vendors working together that makes it possible for the entire setup to be moved out of the way of oncoming trains when the need arises. Close attention is duly paid to the schedule of the train, despite the apparent distraction of the busy selling conditions and throngs of market visitors. As the tracks are cleared according to train schedules, disaster is consistently averted. Number 5. Katoomba Scenic World Railway. Australia may be thought of as a land of flat terrain and desert, but it's worth remembering that while that impression may be true across much of the Australian landscape, there is topographical variation. The Blue Mountains of New South Wales are not only noteworthy natural features, but also home to an incredible railway system that forms a tourist attraction. Remarkable as the world's steepest funicular railway and the steepest passenger-carrying rail system worldwide, the Katoomba Scenic World Railway was originally built in the late 1800s and has a rich history, given its construction to aid in transportation aspects of mining operations. Funicular indicates that the railway operates with the assistance of cable traction, pulling cars up the steep inclines that would otherwise pose an insurmountable challenge for rail travel. With tracks positioned at 52 degrees, which is a 128% incline, the incredibly steep railway now sees modern vehicles operating as an attraction for daring rail travelers. The railway offers spectacular views of mountain, forest, and cliff formations as it traverses difficult terrain. In one particularly hair-raising section, the railway drops 1,017 feet as it travels through a tunnel in the side of a mountain cliff. Number 4. Tren-a-las Nubes in Argentina. The Andes are known as exceptional geographical formations that offer some of the most ambitious mountaineering routes on the planet. Translating to train to the clouds, Tren-a-las Nubes in Argentina rises just over 13,779 feet above sea level. Passing through numerous spectacular landscape types and climate zones, the train traverses arid lowlands, rocky precipices, and high-elevation landscapes where the air is thin enough to potentially create challenges for those not accustomed to the height. And speaking of that height, onboard oxygen is available in case of medical symptoms due to the exceptional height reached on the journey. Construction of this incredible railway route began in the year 1921 under a plan to connect northern Argentina to Chilean lands by reaching across the Andes. As the tracks cover variations between peaks and immense valleys, the differences are leveled out by carefully constructed trestles equipped with an incredible array of beams abruptly transitioning into railway track, skirting slope edges with sufficient clearance made into the rocks. Typical track may seem to be the exception rather than the norm in such parts of the route. While the train does reach incredible heights, the name actually refers to clouds of steam from the locomotive. Number 3. Qinghai-Tibet Railway. The highest railway in the world, the Qinghai-Tibet Railway, reaches the exceptional height of a little more than 16,640 feet at its highest point, while its average height is still exceptional at nearly 14,764 feet. The railway passes through the world's highest elevated railway tunnel, with sections of the track experiencing severe freezing conditions. The route contains a number of record-holding elements in the track layout, including the most lengthy plateau tunnel on the planet at Kunlun Mountain, extending 5,531 feet, while the Fenghuosheng Tunnel is at the top of the world records for the tunnel that is at the highest elevation, being built at 16,092.52 feet. The railway is recognized as a Chinese engineering feat of great significance, standing out with many ingenious and challenging engineering solutions given the vast distances involved in the route, the remote locations, and the need to build sections of the track on frozen soil that never thaws. The highness of the altitude has not only presented challenges to passengers, but significantly affected construction workers to the point where oxygen facilities were set up. Passengers fill out a health declaration and are also supplied with personal oxygen masks, while train windows filter excess UV rays. Number 2. Mauritania Railway in the Sahara Desert. Yep, there is a train running through shifting sands and shimmering heat. At 437 miles in length, the Mauritania Railway braves the blistering isolation of the Sahara. The endless trains running along this desert-to-ocean route, the national railway of the sizable Sahara Desert-dominated African country of Mauritania, are the longest freight trains in the world at 1.5 miles in length. The route is used to transport iron ore vast distances across the desert to port locations where it is shipped. Given that the nation is almost entirely stark and desolate desert, iron ore export plays a crucial role in the economic survival of the country. While the trains are mostly intended to carry freight, passengers can hitch a ride on the trains, either opting to ride for free in the hoppers or to pay a small fee to travel on available benches. But if the train were to break down in the extreme heat of the Sahara, the results could be disastrous for travelers. The risks of adventure on the desert tracks include extreme sandstorms brought about by the harsh desert winds and easily disturbed fine sands that characterize the desert landscape. Number 1. Dawlish Railway Station, Exeter to Plymouth Line. Trains on a beach, a seawall station, and seacliff tunnels. That's a lot to combine together in a railway route, and sometimes the cause of an awful lot of trouble due to collapsing tracks. An example of particularly notable and extreme railway line construction that has left much to be desired, the Dawlish Railway Station in southern England and the railway tracks to and from the areas close to the station have at times been fraught with problems. The challenges have included collapse of a track section after it was washed away by waves caused by extreme weather. The spectacular appearance of the beachside station and nearby tracks stands out, seemingly being out of place due to the station being right on the seawall, allowing salt spray to easily wash over the tracks. The sight of trains in a viewscape where one might expect beached or moored ships adds great interest and creates fantastic photographic opportunities. Adding to the drama of the exceptionally challenging rail route, the track travels through tunnels bored into challenging sea cliffs just to the south of the station, creating a contrast between track running through the closed seaside tunnels and track laid along open sea walls. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up below, and do not forget to subscribe. We've got brand new videos just like this every day of the week. And if you're looking for something else to watch right now, why not check out another channel I do? It's called Today I Found Out. Videos about specific subjects rather than top 10 lists. You can find that link to on the screen now. And as always, thank you for watching.